Hey, y'all. Happy Wednesday morning or afternoon or evening or heck, maybe it's not till Thursday until you watch this. Jared Sandler here with you. Going to talk some Rangers. Also, heads up, later today we will release our third episode of the Broadcasters Roundtable. So if you're interested in the sports broadcasting industry or you know a broadcaster who is, especially a young broadcaster, Mike Cousins, Ted Emmerich, and I try to discuss some of the issues that we dealt with, I guess, as we were getting into the industry, as we were progressing through even issues that we deal with now. So we'll be releasing another episode of that later today. Tomorrow, I'll do another standalone Rangers Q&A. And I'll be soliciting questions on a few different platforms. You can always just be proactive and reach out to me at Jared Sandler. Tweet me the question. Let me know that you saw the video. You want the question to be answered on the Q&A tomorrow. Would appreciate if you would subscribe. It's pretty easy. You just click the subscribe button. It's free. It takes, I don't know, how long does it take to actually click something? Like less than half a second, less than a tenth of a second just to click. I guess if you need to move the mouse over, maybe we're getting in the second to a second and a half range. If it takes you longer to move your mouse over and your mouse is working properly, then we need to work on your mouse skills because it shouldn't take that long. So it's free, it's quick. You're not going to get like spammed. It's not like you're getting push notifications every time I breathe. It's just an opportunity for, if you enjoy this content, to maybe access it a little easier. But really, at the end of the day, it helps me a lot. So I'd appreciate it. Pretty simple. And if you also want to click that thumbs up, I'd appreciate that too. If you want to do this, then I'd say that you should unplug your mouse or just close your computer and reconsider. All right. Anyway, gonna talk some Rangers here. Summer camp, summer training, spring training 2.0, whatever you want to call it. I personally like summer camp. I've seen some people say that calling it summer camp is tone deaf because there are a lot of problems in the world right now, and summer camp has a positive connotation. I don't know. I guess if you think that's like offensive, let me know. Uh, I fully am aware that we're not in the greatest time of our lives right now. A lot of people are dealing with various levels of adversity. I'm certainly one of them. As far as the impact of the pandemic, and I'm one of most, if not almost all. I guess if you work for like Purell, you're probably doing all right. But I'd say everyone's been impacted. If we're just gonna like be miserable because of it, then that's probably, I don't know. Just doesn't seem like a winning solution. So I like summer camp. If you think it's offensive, let me know. So the Rangers released their rosters. So let's tackle a few things here. First of all, uh, the roster allows for 60 players, and there are some roster rules that be tough to just totally convey over this video without getting too confusing. But basically, I'll just say this: if you've got a guy on the 60 man and he doesn't get hurt, he doesn't get ill with the virus, and you need to clear a roster spot because maybe someone got hurt and someone else got hurt, and you need to make a move, temporarily, or I don't know, someone becomes available. It is a pain in the ass to get them off the 60 man without the risk of losing them from the organization. So that's why pretty much every team, I don't think there was a single team that went 60 deep when they released the rosters on Sunday. So that's why the Rangers released 55. Technically, it's 55, but really it's 57 procedurally. And honestly, they might have done it. They might be doing it as we speak. But at some point here soon, they're going to add Edinson Volquez and Juan Nicasio to that roster. I'm not 100% clear as to why they were not a part of the initial roster, but that will take place. So the Rangers are at 57. Notable omissions. Let's start there. The most notable omission, there are three guys from the 40 man who did not get placed, and one of them, Brock Burke, was put on the 60-day DL, so technically he's not on the 40 man right now. So not a surprise there. He's out for the year. Yohander Mendez on the restricted list. Seemed like he had a shoulder thing in spring training, and also just seems like he's kind of fallen out of favor. So not a shock there. And then you've got Kyle Cody. I don't know that Kyle Cody was truly a candidate to be a big leaguer this year. Certainly wasn't going to break camp with the Rangers in March. Coming off of Tommy John, but highly coveted young arm in the Rangers system. I think the only shock is that I guess the approach was why not? Why not have him on? Good experience, keep him kind of in that arena. But at the end of the day, if you take a step back and you think about it, all right, they probably will make use of those 3 extra spots. Not a big deal at all. So that's that. So really, no major glaring omissions, and probably not a lot of those around the league, just because 60-man roster is that's pretty hefty. The Rangers did release Matt Duffy, and he did sign with the Yankees, but Duffy didn't have a great camp, and I think the thought was with how well Isaiah Kiner-Falefa played in spring training at that time, that he wasn't going to make the team. So I think that's kind of a veteran's a veteran's release, and that hey, listen, you're a vet, you've done some stuff here in this game, we want to give you an opportunity. Probably not going to make the team. So that's that with the roster and omissions. The roster's online. You can go at Jared Sandler to find it. They tweeted a few days ago. You can go to the Rangers website. I'm not going to read everybody on the roster. Nick Solak, interesting stuff here. He was listed as an outfielder. Now, that doesn't commit him to anything. And maybe we look back on this and say, oh, it's just whatever. He could be listed as an outfielder, an infielder, and it doesn't mean that he's got to stick to one position grouping or the next. My understanding, my recollection is that he previously has been listed as an infielder. And also understand, there's not the way these rosters are produced, there's no utility section. So Isaiah Kiner-Falefa listed as an infielder, not a utility player. Nick Solak listed as an outfielder. The reason to me that's interesting is if we do want to look into it, and why the heck not? It's kind of fun to look into it. It might give you an idea of how they're going to try and fit Nick Solak into an everyday role. That is, as a center fielder. Well, what about Danny Santana? Danny Santana, who is listed as an outfielder, but also should fit in that utility category, would, if he's healthy and swinging the bat well, play first base. Because remember, when we all left Arizona, that first base competition between Ronald Guzman and Greg Bird was still a total unknown, and not because those guys were both tearing the covers off the ball. They were both struggling. I think in a 60-game season, the way you approach things, I know the way you approach things will be different. In a 162-game season, you can have on opening day 4 guys for 3 spots, or 5 guys for 4 spots, or 3 guys for 2 spots, whatever, whether it's a group of positions or, a whole set of positions, or, you just look like the outfield, 4 outfielders for 3 spots, whatever the case is, or 5 outfielders plus a DH for 4 spots. You can slow play that in a 162-game season and say, hey, we're going to work them all in. We're going to work in Nick Solak. We're going to work in, Danny Santana at first. And, the goal is to get him, each 4 starts a week somewhere, maybe 5. And then soon enough, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's not going to perform well. And then, the problem solves itself. And it very well might do that here in spring training with an injury. Hopefully that's not the case. Summer camp, whatever. In a 60-game season, I don't think that managers will approach it the same. You have the luxury of doing that. You have the luxury of patience if you want, but it doesn't seem prudent. So I think instead of slow playing it, a lot of these decisions and strategies will be altered with a greater deal of immediacy. And so I think right now, whereas I'd say, yeah, Nick Solak and Willie Calhoun, remember, got hurt, and so Nick was going to play left field. But everyone right now in a similar positional group is healthy. So I think that's a strong possibility because that's the way you maximize your bats. And Danny Santana's a better option at first than Solak. He's a little bigger. He's also played it a little bit, and so a little bit more. So I think that's where they might be leaning. Now, if Ronald Guzman or Greg Bird have great camps, then perhaps that decision changes, and maybe they don't need a great camp. Maybe they're just going to say, hey, we're going to give you a shot, but it's going to be a short leash. I just think if they want to have the best offensive lineup from day one, and neither of those guys, Guzman or Bird, give you much in camp, and by the way, I don't know how easy it's going to be to shed a bad spring training because you're only going to play, maybe a couple scrimmages or summer camp games against another team, and you'll only have inner squads really to go off of. But maybe they can swing the pendulum. But otherwise, I think Solak at first or Santana at first and Solak in center is a strong possibility. Another interesting part of the roster, and then I want to get into one last quick conversation. Alex Pease. Alex Pease is on the roster, and that is not a surprise, mind you. But what's interesting is that if you think of the past few Rangers seasons, they have had a pitcher start the season in A-ball, probably not on people's radars, and earn his way up to the big leagues. We saw it with Ricardo Rodriguez a few years back. We saw it with Pete Fairbanks, who eventually the Rangers traded for Nick Solak. We saw it with Emmanuel Clase. And we might see it, I guess, the parallel with Alex Pease. Now, Alex Pease is not going to start in A-ball and go to Double-A and Triple-A and the bigs because there's no minor league baseball. And we'll talk more about that on Friday, the impact of no minor league baseball when I do my random sports wandering mind. But Alex Pease, I guess, would maybe do the equivalent. Not really on people's radars. In his pro career, he hasn't played above A-ball, and that was in 2018. He then got hurt, and last year pitched 2 games in rookie ball in Arizona because he was coming back from an arm injury. He's had a couple arm injuries. They slowed him down. They shut him down last year because he was throwing 102, and they didn't want to burn him coming off an injury. They wanted to slow play it. He's 22 years old. He was a second-round pick in 2016. He was the first pick the Rangers made after Cole Reagans. He was drafted as a starter, but he's now a reliever. And he's still apparently throwing cheddar. This is a guy to keep your eyes out for. He might not make the team, probably won't make the team out of camp, but he'll be on the taxi squad. And I think that there's a strong chance that we see Alex Pease at some point here this season. The last thing, every team has a DH now. There's a universal DH. If the Rangers were maybe not in contention or got a really good first month out of Shin-Soo Choo, the market for Choo will have a much wider net of teams who could use him. In previous seasons, you really only were drawing from 14 teams, the 14 other American League teams. Then you slice that down and take away the non-contenders, take them out of the mix because why would they make that deal? And then you look at the contending teams, and really maybe only 1 or 2 of them the last couple years had maybe a place for Shin-Soo Choo. Now you've got a whole other league of teams that could be interested. Add that to the fact that there's probably not going to be a lot of separation by August 31st. There could be some interest. Now, not a lot of separation. That very well means and hopefully means the Rangers are a part of that bulk. The Rangers are vying for a playoff spot. The trade deadline, though, in general, for all teams will be really interesting. All teams, especially like those who fit the Rangers group of, well, they probably weren't going to make the playoffs in a 162-game season and perhaps use the deadline as a way to improve for the future. But now on August 31st, they might be 1 game back with 5 other teams in the mix, and GMs are going to have tough decisions. If there are enough fishers out there, enough buyers out there to create a market. I think the trade deadline is going to be interesting. I've been asked, well, does it mean there's going to be more activity or less activity? I have no idea. My guess is less activity because for certain teams, the opportunity of the possibility of making the playoffs in a year in which maybe that expectation was slim might be tough to pass up. That doesn't mean they're going to be buck wild aggressive and compromise their future, but it might means they just say, hey, let's see this play out. And, I also think that with only 1 month of service for an acquired player at the deadline, maybe the prices are lower. I don't know. My guess is less activity, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, there you go. Those are just some Rangers thoughts. Again, going to do a standalone Q&A tomorrow. Get those questions in on Twitter at Jared Sandler. Heck, if you want to Instagram message me at Jared Sandler _, you can respond in the comments portion of this video. I appreciate if you would share this with your friends. Feel free to subscribe. Jared Sandler wishing you a happy Wednesday. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.